All right, guys, welcome back. We got another episode of the DZD podcast today here with
Danny.
Dante.
and we got another special guest for you. We got one of the best high school coaches in the state. He's been to a bunch of district chips and the state finals, coached a lot of good players, put them in college, and a couple to the league. We got Gaither football's Kirk Karsen.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hey guys,
You know,
great to be here.
yeah, thank you. Before we get into the questions and stuff, I just want to say thank you for coming on our podcast. It's not every day that you can talk to somebody who's done great things to a program. You're the all-time leading winner as a head coach, and just thank you for coming on, man.
No, listen, it's my pleasure, man. I mean, this is what we're here for. We got into, what I got into education for is, I loved sports. I liked being around kids and, trying to make a difference in someone's life. So that's the reason why I got into education.
Yeah. So currently, you're in spring football and you're entering your 7th season. How's that going?
It's been great. I mean, I really mean that because last year was a really different year for us because we started 19 underclassmen. So out of 22 starters, 19 of the kids were either freshmen, sophomore, or juniors. So we didn't have much senior leadership at all. We only had 3 leaders on our team. So we had an uncharacteristic, kind of disappointing season for us. We were 7-5 and, it just wasn't a good season for us. We had a couple games where we didn't feel like we competed in games, and Wharton and Jesuit put a running clock on us. And that's only happened one other time, and that was my first year in the playoffs here. So we just weren't accustomed to that ever happening, getting mercy ruled before. But, the beautiful thing is that we responded from that. And the kids, we fought through it, beat 2 really good football teams in order to make the playoffs, even though our leader, Eugene Wilson, was out. And I thought we responded really good to it. And these kids learned so much from all the mistakes that they made the year prior. And you're really seeing it in the spring that they've grown up and they're like at another level now. And you're not seeing the mistakes. You're not seeing the mental errors. You're not seeing the physical errors. And, it really paid off getting that, season of, hard knocks in to it made them grow as football players, without a doubt.
And this love for football, where did your love from football come from?
It's crazy, man. Like I was one of those kids that I wanted to play football from the time that I was like probably 3 years old. I'd be in the yard and I'd be playing against the older kids. And those older kids back in the day would rough you up, and I'd come home with like bumps on my head, and I'd be like 4, 5, 6 years old playing. And my dad had a family friend that was a doctor, and he was telling my dad, like, you really shouldn't let your kid play football until he's at least like 12 or 13 because your growth plates are really growing in your arms and in your legs. And it was like just torture for me because, I played baseball, but I didn't love it. I liked it. I just didn't love it. So I did that up until I was 13. And then finally I was 13 and I was like, I'm playing football, Dad. You said 13, I'm playing. And right then I knew that like my baseball days were over with and like I was ready to play football. So great question.
Take us through your high school days if you played football, and then your journey and your next steps after high school.
Yeah, absolutely. I was really lucky that my football career, I've just been so blessed to be with so many great coaches. Mm-hmm. Just like how the basketball teams got Coach Davis, just really good coach and good mentor. I played for this guy named Billy Turner. He's the all-time leading winner of Hillsborough County coaches. I mean, the guy's got like over 250 wins, which is just crazy because I just got my 50th this year and he has like 250. Yeah. So, I mean, the guy, he did it for like 50 years. And he was, I don't know if you guys remember, Bobby Bowden was the head coach at Florida State. He was kind of like a grandfather like type guy. Yeah. That's who he was, because when he was coaching me, he was like in his late 50s, early 60s. And we kind of viewed him as almost like a grandfather, you know what I mean? And I learned so much from him and just learned how to deal with players. I always thought it was really neat the way he treated the players, you treated them all fairly, but he was very unique with all the players. He knew the players you could yell at. He knew the players that you couldn't yell at.
Mm-hmm.
He knew the players that he had to be real fragile with. And I really, I really thought that was an interesting thing to see the psychology of the game, to know that, you always hear you got to treat every player the same. Well, really, if you want to be a good coach, that's really the opposite. You got to be fair with every player, but you can't treat them the same. Think about it. You get a kid who comes from a single mom house who never has a parent at home most of the time. He's living a different lifestyle than the kid who's coming from a 2-parent home, who has mom that's home every day, can call on her and rely on her for everything. And, she can at a whim's notice come do this for him, come do that for him. But when the other kids, mom's at work, and it just everybody's, hand of cards is different, what they get dealt. And you got to be able to deal with kids differently if you want to get the most out of them.
Yeah, that's good. So I know your daughter Tori told me that you went to the military after high school, I believe. And how was that, just being in the military, the lessons you learned and all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it made me who I am today. I was a pretty good high school football player. I wasn't great. I was pretty good. I was a starter for 2 years, and I kind of knew I had a little bit of a neck injury that was giving me like a lot of serious problem. I was going numb from like my right arm down, and I just kind of knew, man. I was like, look at me, man. I'm 5'8", 180 pounds. Like, I knew my football, I wouldn't have much of a career. Like, I was realistic even when I was a senior, that I knew that, I could go play small college football, but why? Like, am I going to just beat my body up? And I just knew that at that time, I didn't honestly, guys, take school super seriously. I did enough not to get in trouble, because if I didn't get at least a C, it was, there was no weekend for me, and I would be sitting around home by myself with my parents, and I didn't want that. So I knew that, I wasn't ready for college at that moment. I knew that I needed to do something to kind of mature a little bit. And I was very fortunate at that time. They had a 2-year, 17-week program in the military. And I didn't want to commit for a long time. But when I found out that there was a 2-year program, I was like, man, I just turned 18. Like, I can be 20 years old and be ready to go to college, have my whole college paid for. I was like, it was kind of no brainer for me. It let me mature a little bit. I learned so much about discipline, accountability, teamwork, all those things that football, baseball, basketball, team sports, like, that you need. You need all those things. And, I learned that it was hard, and I knew that I valued education after that, because, some of the jobs that I did in the military were tough and backbreaking work. And I knew that I needed to get an education, because I didn't want to be doing that type of job when I was 30, 40, 50, 60. You know what I mean? So that's when I got serious, got out of the military, and was like, I'm not screwing around in school.
So using your skills you learned from your high school coaching in the military, how are you able to get a job in the education system and kind of propel your career?
Yeah. Well, in thinking about where I came from with my high school coach, Billy Turner, when I decided that I wanted to go to the route of education, I knew that I wanted to go somewhere and learn. And I think that's the one thing that I was really good about I guess I was a 26-year-old graduating college, that 25, 26, right in that range. I knew that I needed to learn, and I wanted to go and learn from somebody who at that time I thought was the best. Hillsborough High School was one of the better teams in the 90s and in the early 2000s. They made it to the state championship game and won tons of games. And I was like, wow, I could go teach social studies at Hillsborough, or I could go at Sickles, and Sickles was not very good at the time. And I was like, man, I need to go, and whatever I got to do, I'm going to do and learn from the best. So I went there and learned from Earl Garcia, who has since overpassed Billy Turner and is now the all-time winningest coach in Hillsborough County's history.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he did that like 2 years ago. So I went and I was with him for about 4 years and learned under him, and just really learned the organization of everything. What I learned from him more than anything else was just organization. Every minute, every second of every day was accountable. He had everything in practice planned out from the minute on down. When the kids leave, they get their parents pick them up. I mean, it was stuff that I needed. I needed that organization in my life. I needed to see how, he ran it like a college program. I mean, literally college coaches would come to our practices and be like, this is like a college practice. Like everything is professional. And, I learned that from him, and I can really thank him for that.
And what was the moment that you knew you wanted to be the coach? Like, did you from the beginning know you wanted to coach, or when did you start getting into that?
It's funny you asked that, because I was finishing up my degree, and I think I had about a year left. And a buddy of mine, who's now the principal at Sly Middle School, named Anthony Jones, he was a teacher here. He called me, and we played high school football together. And you guys you guys seem very close. You guys are going to stay together for a while. I hadn't seen this dude in like 6 years. And he calls me, and he's like, hey man, I just got the head JV coaching job at Gaither High School football. He goes, would you be interested in coming over and helping me coach defense and be the defensive coordinator? And I was like, yeah, man, why not? Let me just give it a shot. And I'm telling you right now, like that first 2 weeks of being there, it was like, this is my calling. Like this, I knew that's what I wanted to do.
In the beginning.
Right there. Never thought in high school for a moment that I would ever coach a day in my life. But right when I got asked to go out there, I was just like, went home to my wife at the time, and we were newlyweds, and I was like, I know what I want to do. I said, I want to coach.
Was that before Hillsborough and Sickles?
That was at Gaither High School, 1999 and 2000. I was here for 2 years, 1999 and 2000, and we had an All-American on our team. His name was Lydell Ross.
Oh, wow.
And he went to Ohio State, won a national championship, played for the San Diego Chargers. And it was really fun because we had just a great group of kids, and with just unreal senior leadership. And I think that kind of helped. Yeah. Because think about it. You never know. I loved coaching, but if we'd have went 0-10 or 2-8, I don't know. I don't know if I would have. It helped winning and being around with such great seniors. And it was a perfect situation for me.
And then I believe you got the head coach job at Sickles, right?
No, I was the defensive coordinator.
Defensive coordinator. Yeah. How was that over at Sickles? You coached a lot of great players.
Yeah, I mean, we got, a couple guys that made it to the NFL on those teams. A guy that's, just got put on an NFL roster this year who played at UCF. It was great. Coach Turner it was Billy Turner's son who got the job. Mm-hmm. So the guy that I played high school football for, his son got the job. And he asked me to come coach for him, and I did the defense, and we were really, really, really good over there. Won a lot of games, came really close to making it to state. Fell a little bit short, but just the relationships there. They're just the group of kids that we had were very, very hardworking, very intelligent, and just were all in. And it was kind of a fun atmosphere because Coach Turner was a very unique guy. He was the bad cop. And so as the head coach, when your head coach is the bad cop, you kind of got to realize, I got to be the good cop, because you can't have all bad cops, because then kids want to leave. Kids won't be happy there. It'll be a miserable experience for them. So I kind of learned a little bit on how to be the good cop. When he'd, rip a player and get mad at him, and kid was on the verge of quitting, I'd be the one that would put my arm around him and be like, hey man, listen, it's one day. Everybody has a bad day. We got to move on. So it kind of helped me with the psychology of the game, because, you learned how to be a different role than you thought you'd ever be. Like, I never thought I'd be the good cop, like good cop. You know what I mean? Like the guy who was just looking out for all the kids and making sure they were okay. But I kind of had to be that there. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it was definitely an experience for me that helped me.
So after your time at Sickles, Gaither brought you in. They gave you an opportunity to be head coach. How are you able to use everything you learned so far to come in and build a program? Because they had a losing record 3 of their last 4 seasons before they hired you.
Honestly, Zeki, I knew what I wanted. And the beautiful thing is, when you coach for so many good coaches, you learn what to do from them. It would be like you guys learned from Coach Davis, some of the drills, some of the things that you guys saw, and you were like, man, I really like that. If I ever do that, I'm keeping that. Or maybe there's stuff that you didn't like, and you're like, if I ever become a head coach, I'm not doing that. So the beautiful thing is, as being an older first-time head coach, I think it was a tremendous advantage for me because I've been around the block. I mean, think about it. I was coaching 17 years. So I had 17 years of coaching kids and seeing what to do, what not to do. And I knew a couple things that while we were going to be successful, I knew that we needed to start this program and it needed to be about toughness, attitude, and a blue collar work ethic. That's what it was going to take. And I knew if we could get the kids to buy into that, that we really had a chance to be good and start building a foundation here. And the senior class that year, the 2017 class, could not have asked for a better class. I mean, just those kids barely knew me. Think about it. I was here with them for 6 months and we're starting our season. You know, it takes a lot to build that trust.
Yeah.
6 months.
And a lot of players too.
And they bought in, the Caden Jordans, who, you know, is going to maybe try out for an NFL team. Donovan Jennings is going to be playing NFL football. Matt Wood was a great football player. Connor Jewell, I could go on and on about that class, just, you know, how special they were. And they bought in, and that helped because that helps set the foundation. If your dudes are buying in, then the guys that are kind of, you know, not the superstars are going to be like, yeah, let's do it. They're doing it. So that helped out tremendously, that senior class.
It was very impressive that those first 2 years you were here, you brought winning to Gaither. And our freshman year was that 2019 team that you had. And that's when we really heard about you and everybody was coming to the football games. How was that year that y'all made it really far? You had a lot of young talent.
Honestly, Danny, that year, when I knew, because at that year you add the years up, now you're looking at 19 years of doing this. Like we played Alonzo in the spring game, which we're getting ready to play in 2 weeks. And I've never seen a team in any of the years that I've coached play like that in a spring game. And Alonzo wasn't bad, but they weren't Armwood, you know, but they were a solid team at that time. We went out in a half of football and it was 42-0 before you could even blink an eye. I mean, we dominated them in every phase of the game and there was no weakness. I mean, there was absolutely no weakness on that team. We had a great offensive line. We had a great quarterback, great running backs, great receivers, and just the baddest defense you could have imagined. And that was before we got Tafik, because we didn't get Tafik until August of that year. So it just, honestly, guys, like that, I knew that year. Like I told the coaches that after that spring game, I go, man, we are making a run at state this year. There's no doubt in my mind, barring a major injury, we will make a run at state. And the kids just, when we beat Plant week 2, I was like, this is exactly the team I thought we were.
I remember being at that game. It was like 45-17. I was
crazy.
A freshman. Everyone saying like Plant's good. Like, and we just killed them.
Yeah. I knew that game, like that team, but you got to realize it goes back to that senior class. That senior class bought in so much in 19 that those juniors and sophomores and freshmen, they bought in. And so they bought into everything that they did. And by the time that those guys were in the program for 2-3 years, I mean, it was like low maintenance. I mean, the kids took care of a lot of the business. I mean, they did everything. And, you know, you get a kid like Tafik, who's just a freak of nature, come in and, you know, in August, I mean, you get lucky to get a kid like that coming in August. And the crazy thing is this is, as great as that 19 team was, and we were 8 minutes away from going to the state championship. And Eugene Wilson didn't even play for us that year, which is nuts because I remember our one of our wide receiver coaches, Coach Dave Saunders, and he played in the NFL. So this guy knows talent. He goes, Coach, I got a guy playing for me for the Bills right now who could start for us. And I go, he's a 9th grader. Like, if he's that good, why wouldn't he be playing for us? He goes, oh, well, he thought he might be playing JV, so he decided to come out with us. And I'm like, and then the next year I saw how good Trey was, and I'm like, damn, he's right. Trey probably could have started for us. And you add Trey to that team, And then the other thing, I don't even know if you guys remember this, but there was a kid we had. His name was RJ Chandler, and RJ got in trouble over the summer, and his mom sent him to live with his dad in Georgia. And RJ was like a legit 4.4 40-yard dash speed burner, 2-year starter. We should have had RJ on that team as well.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, so it was a state championship type team. It really was.
Yeah. So then that next year, y'all, paper-wise, y'all got even better. Like that next season, y'all got a lot of studs that came to Gaither. You got Eugene, who was his first year coming up. He was a lot younger, a lot skinnier, he wasn't fully developed yet. But how was that, having a young Eugene and then having all those great players?
Well, I mean, it was a mixed blessing, because when you get all these kids in, we had a lot of transfers that year. When you get all these kids, and you guys can probably relate to basketball, everybody wants to eat, and you only got one ball. Mm-hmm. And it takes a very unselfish team to flourish in that atmosphere. And the year before, when Chico would score a touchdown, everybody'd be happy for him. If Speedy scored a touchdown, everybody'd be happy for him. We kind of got to a point to where the next year, if Jordan Oladokin scored a touchdown, there'd be 3 or 4 guys going, "Where's mine?" They'd want theirs. And it kind of like festered for a while. And I probably should have done a better job of nipping it in the bud, but we kind of became a little bit of a selfish team. But on, like you said, Daniel, you're right. You did your research. On paper, it definitely on paper was a better team, but we didn't have the chemistry because of COVID. We couldn't meet with the kids pretty much all summer. Mm-hmm. We had to, Kyle Kelly had to throw a stuffed animal in practice because we weren't allowed to touch a ball for the first 2 months of summer. So he was throwing my Tori's stuffed animal dog is what he was throwing at practice, because we weren't allowed to touch a football. So in that respect, it was a challenging year. But I think honestly, there were such high expectations, guys. It was, and that would have been, now you're looking at year, basically like 20 for me. I've never been on a team that had such high expectations for state. It was, we set ourselves up for state champion, not going to state champion, or the season was a failure. Mm-hmm. And I think we got a little bit big-headed, coaches, kids. And the ironic thing is, and I mean ironic, is the team that beat us in the playoffs that year was a team that we mercy ruled the year before.
That's what Feek told us.
Mercy ruled. 41-0. Mercy ruled them. Like they were on the bus going home to Orlando at like 9. Like mercy rule. So I think, as we all know, kids and coaches, you can kind of overlook teams. And I think we kind of overlooked them. And that team they wanted vengeance. And they shocked us. And we couldn't get it pulled together enough until the fourth quarter. We kind of we were playing catch up. And it just kind of, just kind of fell apart.
So after that 2019 season, Gaither kind of became more popular for transfers that come in. They realize it's a good coach, good program. How do you kind of manage that? Because it keeps on continuing every year now.
You just want a good fit. That's what you want, Zachy, is you want a fit. You want a kid that I did learn the lesson after the 2020 season. You got to be willing to be a part of the team. You know what I mean? You got to be willing to, be that team guy. And there's a place for the me, but it has to be about team. And, we're looking for the right fits. It's what we're looking for. We're looking for guys that, want to, the old t-shirt. It's like, it's not about me. It's about the team, stuff like that, but I think what we do brings a lot of people here too. We throw the football, and not a lot of people throw the football. And, we have a kid like Jace Nixon, who, is probably one of the best quarterbacks in America. Mm-hmm. And, when you throw the football, you're going to get more people involved. We always said that. Our offensive coordinator, it's kind of funny. It comes back to what the question you were doing. We wanted to get as many good players as we could to come to Gaither. If you run the football, you got one running back who gets the ball. If you throw the football, you got a running back who can catch it. You got 4 wide receivers that can catch it. You got a lot of kids that you can get involved in the offense. And I think that's helped us, but by being that team, to know that, you could be our 5th best player on offense and you could touch the ball 6 to 8 times a game and be our 5th best player. Whereas if you're the 5th best player in a running offense, you're never touching the ball. Ever. You're blocking for that guy who's number 1. And you know, it's the way I wouldn't want to do that. You know what I mean? I'd want to go somewhere and be able to shine. So I think that helps us.
Yeah, and after that 2020 season, you lost a lot of stars, and Eugene stepped up. And how was that, Eugene stepping up? You know, I think he broke the receiving record at Gaither, and how was that?
He did, and you know, poor Chico, man. I thought that record would last for a couple of years at least. And Eugene, literally the next year, you know, 2 years later, I mean, beats his record by a decent amount. I mean, Eugene's he's just the consummate professional. Like, the guy he works so hard at his craft. And listen, I get it. God gifted him with some amazing skills, but that kid works as hard as anyone. So I think that's been the amazing thing about Eugene, the effect that he has. And that's why I know we're going to be so good this season, is because those kids have learned from Eugene and seen his work ethic. And they're like, I see what Eugene is doing. Yes, he's good, but he works at it. And I think he has laid a secondary foundation for us of, you know, just this next generation of kids who weren't here for the 2019-2020 season. You know, because I got 5 2025 kids that are going to be major Division I athletes. They weren't here for any of that. They don't know who Tony Bartolo is. They don't know who Kyle Kelly is.
That man, Tony, man.
They don't know any of those guys.
Yeah.
But the thing is, everybody knows Eugene Wilson now, and he kind of laid a secondary foundation for us.
So you coached 2 players who won Hillsborough County Most Valuable Player, and Ray McLeod and Trey. How was it coaching Ray McLeod, and how do you kind of compare those two? They're both explosive athletes.
Well, number one, it's easy. It makes us look good. I mean, those guys are so special. I mean, I think the thing that's so unique about those guys is, for the average player, for the above average player, you need all other 10 guys to do their job for them to score a touchdown. With Trey and Ray, they can sometimes do it all on their own. And that's just like, it's, you know, the coaching is to put them in the right position for that. But honestly, a lot of that's just them being the dudes that they are. And they're very similar, man. Tremendous work ethic. Great guys, by the way. You know, just aren't the guys that you're going to see doing drugs and, you know, getting into real bad stuff. Like, just workers, man. Guys that know that they want to make it as high as they possibly goal oriented, extremely goal oriented. The same thing was with Anthony Chickalo, who I coached, who played for the Steelers for 5 years. Same way, man. You know, if his dudes were going out and partying and getting high, he wasn't going. Anthony was going to be in the weight room. We'd be at Gold's Gym that night with his dad working out. Just some of these guys are just so goal orientated that it's, you know, Anthony Chickalo, a guy, I coached him at Gaither in my second stint when I was here before I went to Sickles. Anthony Chico told me that when he went to the University in Miami, that they told him, you got to put 40 pounds on and you need to do it in the next 3 months. And he was like, well, how am I going to do that? And he's like, you better eat. He would set his alarm for 3 o'clock in the morning every single day and eat 5,000 calories. And then he would go back to bed. And then he would eat till he was sick all day. And he got up to like 285 and played at 285 that whole year. And then the next year he got drafted by the Steelers. But my point is, it's that just some of those kids just have that ingrained, just goal orientated, just spirit of lion. And that's, you know, that's another one.
Now that, well, you talked a little bit about Trey earlier, how he led you guys and stuff, and how he was like a mentor. I was running the track. I don't know if you saw it yesterday, but Trey's still out there working out, and he's still like mentoring the team. I see him talking to them, leading them, even if he's off the team anymore. Like, he's not even on there. So how is like having Trey still there helping and mentoring the guys, and having a guy like Jace who's young now about to get into his junior season. How is having those type of players around you help? Like,
well, I mean, it's a great question. I mean, I was reading this on a coaching Twitter site the other day, and they said good teams are run by the coaches. Great teams are led by the players. And that just shows you like the person that Trey is. All Trey should be doing right now is getting ready for Florida. That's not Trey. Trey's out there helping these young guys, telling them what to do, tricks of the trade, how to get better, things like that. I mean, and what you hope is that Jace learns from that and learns from that example of that, we're only going to go as far as these guys take us. Coach can call plays, coach can put us in positions, but we need to come together as one and look out for each other to, reach that next level. We all got to step our games up.
Real quick before we wrap up, is there anyone you want to give shout out to playing this year on your team? We see colleges here all the time now.
You know what I'm going to call out? I'm going to call out the big guys because my skill guys, are phenomenal. They get their names in the newspaper and, all over Twitter and all that. But, man, it all starts up front, man. And I can tell you right now, the offensive line is so improved this year, guys. I know there were times when you saw Jace running for his life last year, but these guys have really taken it personal, and they've really stepped their game up. CJ Dungay is our left tackle, playing great. Raul Paz is our left guard, playing great. Matthew Krause, returning starter at center, undersized, never made a bad snap in his career here. Nick Nostal, a younger kid, started for us last year, was playing right guard. And then you got the big guy, Tyreek Major, who's got, probably about 20 offers. And he's really stepped his game up on the right side. And, Jace has barely been touched all spring, which is really nice because they're going against some very good defensive players.
I wish we could talk more, but you have a parent meeting to go to. But it's a blessing that we got to talk to you.
Yeah, man.
And thank you. Oh, this is a camera. I was looking at the wrong camera. Thank you for all the love, guys. Make sure to subscribe and like the video. Thank you for Coach Karsen for being on the podcast.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Guys, had a pleasure.
And we wish you the best of luck in the future. And I tell it to North and Coach Davis that Gaither's in good hands. So thank you for everything.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it always helps when you're when your big three, are in good position, and I feel like we are. I completely agree.
All right. Well, thank you so much, guys. Stay tuned for the next episode. We out.